What's up, y'all? It's your man, Dat Dude, bringing you guys another video. So the Panthers lose to the Dolphins by a score of 42-21. When I made my preview video for this game, I said that the Panthers would lose by a score of 42-17. So despite me being almost dead on with my prediction, the Panthers still found a way to disappoint me in this game. And that's because they came out in that first quarter looking like a team we had not seen all year. And by that I mean, they looked like a competent, well-coached, well-ran football team for that first quarter. They dominated, surprisingly enough, that first quarter. They went up 14-0 in that first quarter. It should have been more than that if Eddie Pinheiro hadn't missed a kick. They looked like a completely different team. I don't know if the game plan just worked in that first quarter and maybe the Dolphins made adjustments later on. The Panthers could not match those adjustments, which I think that probably is the case. But they looked like a actual good team in that first quarter, and I was surprised. I actually allowed myself to have a sliver of hope that the Panthers would win that game. I didn't fully believe they'd win, but in the back of my mind, there was a little sliver of hope, like that little voice in the back of my head was saying to me that maybe my team has a chance to win this game. Maybe they can eke this out. Maybe they can continue this good play. And of course, the real Panthers showed up in the second quarter, and they're on through the game. The Dolphins came back. They scored 35 or 42 unanswered points. It was not a good outing for the Panthers after the first quarter. The Dolphins that game ended exactly like I thought it would. It just, with the way the game began, the Panthers allowed me to a little bit of me to believe that they had a chance to win that game. They could not contain Tyreek Hill. They could not get pressure on Tua. The running game after the first quarter for the Dolphins really started to have some success. They could not keep Mostert out of the end zone. The Dolphins pretty much played like we expected the Dolphins to play after that first quarter. And by that I mean they proved themselves again to be arguably the best offense in the NFL. That team, it takes a team that has a good offense and a very good defense to compete with the Dolphins. If you only have a good offense but a bad defense, you're probably not going to be able to keep up with the amount of points they're able to put up and the speed at which they can move the ball. And the Panthers are a poor offense and right now are not a very good defense, largely due to injuries, but again are not a very good defense. Dante Jackson we knew this going in, but he was not able to match up with Tyreek Hill. Brian Burns again had a game where he largely no-showed. I think he had 2 total tackles, 1 tackle for a loss. Not the kind of game you expect from a guy who apparently wants $30 million a year. You need more from Brian Burns in a game like that. I thought Frankie Louisville had some decent plays, but only so much Frankie Louisville can do. I thought Sam Franklin filled in admirably and as a starting safety, but the Panthers, with all the injuries they have on the defensive side of the ball, they were going to be overmatched probably even if they didn't have those injuries. If you add those injuries in, the defense, I don't think ever really had a solid chance at stopping the Dolphins. They held up for as long as they could in that first quarter. After that, the floodgates opened and the Dolphins score a bunch of points. As far as the Panthers offense, it was a pretty decent game from Bryce Young. I think he had some really good moments, but he also missed some throws. That deep shot that DJ Chark was open, and Bryce Young just missed him. I thought he was behind on a couple of throws. I thought he did not escape pressure very well. I just don't think that's going to be a part of his game in the NFL. I think the athletes at the NFL level are just a bit too much for him at times to consistently escape pressure. But he did, again, like last week, he made a lot of good throws over the middle. His connection with Thielen proved again to be pretty good. Thielen went over 100 yards, had a touchdown. Bryce Young made some good throws. He has not yet shown me the flashes I'd want to see from a guy who was the number 1 overall pick. Not even that, was someone the Panthers traded up to take number 1 overall. But he has shown signs that he can be a competent quarterback. I'm still waiting to see signs that he could be a star quarterback, and I didn't really see that in this game. But it was a decent game from Bryce Young given the games he's had over the course of the season so far. Chuba Hubbard showed why he should be the number 1 running back in the Panthers system. He had, over 4 yards a carry. He almost had 90 yards. He had a touchdown. He had a couple of runs that went over, 10 yards. He had a pretty good game for Chuba. Outside of that, there were not really many positive takeaways for the Panthers offense. The offensive line just did not look good. Bradley Chubb just embarrassed Icky for the majority of this game. There was a lot of interior pressure coming from what's the Dolphins D tackle number 94? His name escapes me right now. And as soon as I finish this video, I'm gonna remember his name. It's gonna annoy me. But number 94 for the Dolphins was generating a lot of pressure up the middle. He sacked Bryce Young, I believe, twice. It was not a good showing for the offensive line. It was not a good showing for the Panthers receivers outside of Adam Thielen. You know, Chark, besides that one deep shot where he got open and Bryce Young missed him, I don't think Chark had a good game. You know, Hayden Hurst, who the Panthers was one of the Panthers, big signings over all season, was not a factor in the game at all. Tommy Tremble, I think, had a few good plays. Ian Thomas didn't show up. Mingo had one or two good catches, but for the most part was a non-factor. Terrace Marshall, again, a non-factor. There are a lot of skill position players for the Panthers that were non-factors in this game. Bryce Young was under pressure a lot. I think he missed some throws. Overall, for the offense, they only scored 14 points. Like, I hear people talking about how the way the offense played in the first quarter, can build some confidence going forward. And part of you wants to believe that, because that first quarter, the Panthers team in total, like the defense and the offense, looked very good. But as far as the offense, they scored 14 points for the whole game. Yeah, they started out quickly. Like, they scored points in the first quarter. They scored 14 points in the first quarter. I believe that's the most points they've scored in the first quarter of this season. They looked really good that first quarter. But after that, what then? After the Dolphins made adjustments, the Panthers did not have an answer for the adjustments that the Dolphins made. So it's hard for me to have any kind of confidence in the offense when they still only scored 14 points for the entire game. After the Panthers went up 14-0, the Dolphins scored 42 unanswered points, I believe. Either 35 or 42 unanswered points. I don't remember exactly when the Panthers pick six came. So yeah, if it's not for that pick six, this game would have been 42-14. That pick six made the score look a little bit closer than what it actually was. It was not a good outing for the Panthers if you look at the game in totality. That first quarter looked great, but after that, another bad game for the Panthers, because the Panthers right now are just a bad team. That is what they are. We as fans have to accept it. They're probably going to have spurts here and there where they look like a decent team, and the fans are going to maybe have some hope that they might win the game. But they're a bad team. They're going to be a bad team, I'm pretty sure, for all this year. Now, maybe they could turn it around. We saw the Panthers did last year, where I'm pretty sure I did say that they were a bad team, halfway through the season last year. And we saw how they ended. They were a team that appeared to be on the upswing, and we thought they would have carried that momentum into this year with a new coaching staff and some new skilled position talent and a new rookie quarterback. That has not been the case. This game just showed that the Panthers are nowhere near the level of a team like the Dolphins, and the Dolphins are one of the 5 best teams in the league, by most people's accounts. I will put them again below like a team like the Bills, the Chiefs, below the Niners and the Eagles. I'd put them below those teams, although the Eagles haven't looked all that great this season. But they are one of the upper echelon teams. They are in the discussion for a team that is expected to compete for a Super Bowl. The Panthers are obviously not that. They are nowhere close to competing for a Super Bowl this year. Probably not for the next couple of years. The Panthers are a bad team. They looked like a bad team for 3/4 of this game. The Dolphins show, while they are clearly the superior team, they were better coached than the Panthers. The Dolphins' impactful players made more impactful plays. Again, it was a no-show for Brian Burns. If you were watching that game and you were to ask somebody, well, who's the better edge rusher, Bradley Chubb or Brian Burns, just from that game, you would say Bradley Chubb, because Brian Burns was largely a no-show. Again, only 2 total tackles, 1 tackle for a loss. I don't remember him ever really getting close to Tua. He maybe had a pressure, maybe 1 or 2, but I don't remember him getting close to Tua very much. He was pretty much a non-factor in this game. The Panthers are going to need more from Brian Burns if they want to compete in games like this. He is or should be the best player on the Panthers defense, but there are games where he is a non-factor. All around, this was just not a good showing for the Panthers outside of that first quarter, which again, in that first quarter, they looked like a very good team, a team I did not recognize from this season. But after that first quarter, they showed themselves to be who we have known them to be for this season, which is a bad team. They got blown out. That wasn't surprising. I predicted that they would get blown out. But I'm just a little mad at myself that I allowed myself to believe for a split second that they could win that game. And then, of course, the game ended exactly how I thought it would. So Yep, I don't know if there is really anything for the Panthers to carry going forward in the season. I know Frank Reich is giving up play calling duties to Thomas Brown. Maybe that will have some impact on the success rate for the Panthers offense. Maybe Thomas Brown's going to call games differently. Maybe he has a better grasp of what Bryce Young can and cannot do, and with the skill position talent for the Panthers on offense can and cannot do. So maybe we'll see something different there. But I'm not expecting any major improvements for the Panthers this season. I think it's going to take overhauling the wide receiver room and, getting some help on the offensive line for Bryce Young before we really see any improvement in this team, which is not a good outlook to have for your team only 6 games into the season. But we saw how this game played out. They played a good team, and we saw why the Panthers are not a good team. They lost very handily. That game, once the Dolphins got rolling, that game was never in question. Once the Dolphins scored their first touchdown, I think we all pretty much knew it was game over. So yeah, Dolphins win 42-21. The Panthers get blown out like most reasonable fans thought they would. It was a rough watch. Like all around, just a really rough game to watch outside of that first quarter. That's what I have for you in this one, guys. If you enjoyed this video, go hit that thumbs up. If you're so inclined, subscribe and leave a comment. Did you allow yourself to believe that the Panthers might win that game? Let me know. I respond to almost everything, and I'll see you guys in the next one.